So, anyways, I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. The Lord's put a special message on my heart. I'm going to try not to hit the speaker. So I'm going to pray, and then we're going to get started. Lord, I just thank you for this day. I thank you for mothers. I thank you for the part of you that is in all of us, Lord God. And I pray that through this message, we would look more like you, that we would sense your nurturing spirit more, and that we would serve you in every single way with the gifts and children that you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, I am trying to set myself up for success with a timer, and I already have my glasses, so we're good to go. So when Matthew asked me if I wanted to preach today, I was like, well, what do I want to preach about? And then I just thought about mothers. Like, there's not a better thing, and there's probably not much I'm more passionate about than women operating as a mother in their full authority and capacity. So I'm excited to share some things with you. Because we all grow up with examples, good and bad, of what a mother is. I had both. I felt very loved by my parents. I was told I was beautiful. I was told that I was smart. I was told that I could do anything. But I also had parents that were terrible alcoholics, very high functioning, but very bad alcoholics, less high functioning drug addicts. So that was a very difficult tension to walk as a child. And I grew up making a lot of inner vows and navigating promises that I could not keep for myself, about the kind of woman, mother, and wife I was going to be. But here's the truth. Their ceiling was my floor, and I had a choice. I was either going to get on that ceiling and sit down, and that was going to be it, or I was going to build a house bigger than theirs so that my kids' ceiling could be even higher than what my parents could give me. And that's what I chose to do. And I've spent a lot of years learning, reflecting, making mistakes, doing good things, trying to become the best version I could be so that I could be a good mom, because that was my highest calling. But the truth is that I've already done the best thing I'm ever going to do, and that was raise my kids. There's nothing I'm ever going to do in my life that makes me more proud of the 5 children that I have. And I look at them sometimes and I go, wow, God, you believed in all the goodness in me, that I would use everything that you put in me to make them, and I couldn't have imagined how far he would take them. And they're still at the beginning. And so I want to share with you some of the tools he gave me to help my ceiling be their floor. And I want to be clear before I start. I did not do it perfectly. I fell on my face more times than I can count. I made more mistakes than I would ever want to stand here and own up to. But here's the thing. I was the perfect mother for them. And if I wouldn't have been, God would have chose somebody else. And even though my parents did bad things, they were the perfect parents for me. And God knew that I would take all the things they gave me, the good and the bad, and make something beautiful out of it. So I want to encourage all of you. You are exactly who you are supposed to be. Your children are exactly who they're supposed to be, and God chose you. Psalm 139:13 says that for we were created, let me read it exactly how it is. You were created, start over. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days were ordained for me, were written in your book, before one of them came to be. How precious are your thoughts of me, O God, how vast the sum of them. I think a lot of times we hear that verse and we think about how God made me, how much intentionality he put into making me in my mother's womb. But have you ever thought about how much intentionality he put into choosing the womb, into choosing you as the mother and the father of your child? It was not an accident. It wasn't a random science event. He decided that soul would go in that body. He put just as much intentionality in choosing the womb as he did in choosing the child. So before we get started on these few tools I want to give you, I want everybody to posture their heart in a position of acceptance that you are exactly who you're supposed to be. God chose you to be the parents of your children. and you are exactly who they need. So I want to tell you a few of the tools that I think will completely help you on your journey as a parent. First and foremost is you have to heal your childhood trauma. It is very, very easy to say, oh, bad things happen, blame our parents for everything. But if you do not heal the brokenness inside of you, you will perpetuate brokenness to your children, whether you mean to or not. It is not enough to survive it. You have to heal it. Healing is going to require you to look it square in the face, accept that it hurt you, accept that there was pain, that it shouldn't have happened. But then the next thing you have to do is you have to be willing to move. You have to forgive the people that hurt you, and you have to take responsibility for the fact that while you may have suffered trauma, what you did yesterday is not your parents' fault anymore. It does not matter if you were rejected. I was sexually abused. I was emotionally abused, terribly physically neglected as a child. Lots of bad things. But what I did when I became adult was completely my responsibility. We cannot be people that sit around and go, well, this happened to me. This is just the cards I was dealt. Absolutely not. In the world that we live in today, there is just no room for that. I said earlier that I'd made a lot of inner vows. And one thing that the Lord showed me this week is that inner vows is a promise without a plan that we make to ourselves. And the first time one of these showed up really bad in my life was when I had all 5 of my kids, but I remember the house we lived in, so I know Matthew was definitely a baby when this happened. But we were getting ready to move, was packing up the kids' bedroom, and I was a crazy lunatic, screaming at them, pick up the toys, do this, put this away, and just feeling the pressure. At that season of our life, Daniel had just gone from the jails for, 7 years or something, 4 years, and was going on to patrol, and we had a 2-day window to move. And it was my job to get the house entirely ready and the children to move in a less than a 48-hour period that he had time off. So the stress was high. So I'm yelling, screaming at the kids, and it was not an out-of-body experience in terms of like a new agey thing, but it was like the Lord picked my spirit up out of my body to look down and see that my words were just smashing my children. My dad was a horrific yeller, and I had promised myself I am never going to yell at my kids. The problem was I did not come up with a different plan. I just was like, oh, I'm not going to do it. Well, if that's your only plan, which is no plan, my attachment was still to yelling. It wasn't to any other resource. So that day, sitting on their brown Little Tikes toy box, I was overcome with grief of what I was doing to my kids, screaming at them. And the Lord said, you are being exactly like your dad. And I started to cry and weep. And I looked at all of the kids and I said, I am so sorry. This is not the woman I want to be. At the time, Gabriel couldn't have been more than 6, and probably not more than 5. And I remember him looking at me and hugging me and him crying and saying, it's okay, Mommy, and realizing I was never going to make that mistake again. Now, I'm not standing here telling you that I never yelled at my kids again, but I can tell you that I never lost control again. And what that did was I started to unwrap some healing that I really needed to do deep in my heart, because I had made this promise, I'll never be him, but I didn't have a plan of who I would be. I was just trying not to be him. And in my effort not to be him, I was doing the very thing that had damaged me. So I want to encourage all of you right now, if there is trauma, and I know enough about everybody's stories a little bit to know that there's a lot of trauma in this room, but not having money for therapy is not an excuse. If you have money, go. But if you don't, we live in a world right now where therapy is so accessible. You can get on your phone. You can follow YouTube, watch YouTube videos of counselors that are giving advice. And it is not enough to just listen to it. You have to take it in. You have to look inside and go, where am I? How can I be better here? I know we all have phones, and I've talked to every woman in this room, and we have all admitted that we spend way too much time doom scrolling. So I want to challenge every person in here, including the men, get off the pointless memes, or give yourself a timer for 5 minutes. Look at the area of your life that needs wholeness and start finding help, because it's there. God placed us in a season of time where help is in the palm of our hands and we're just going, I'd rather look at cat videos or I'd rather do this thing. And it has no eternal value. So choose to fill your mind with things that bring healing and wholeness, that will change your pattern of belief. Because here's the thing, you can know all the good things to do, but we do not act out of our knowing. We act out of our belief. I used to quote Maya Angelou all the time and say, when you know better, you do better. And the older I'm getting, the more I think that's a lie. We do not do better until we believe better. I know I should not eat gluten, but I believe the gluten will make my taste buds happier than not eating gluten. We act out of belief, not knowing. If you want to change your belief, change the information that you're putting inside your heart. The second piece to this, and it's really important, the byproduct of healing is humility. If you want to be whole, you have to be humble. And that means you need to find people in your life who have achieved even 2 steps ahead of where you're at and let them talk to you. Ask them how they perceive you. Give them license to hear or to say, hey, I see this in you. That day on the toy box, I know I processed it with Daniel, but I used to always call my best friend, and I'm like, hey, I did this. And she didn't go, oh, it's okay, the kids are crazy. She said, yeah, you're right, you did it. You don't want to be your dad. We're going to figure out how not to do it. It may taste like vinegar when somebody gives you advice that hurts or a clear picture into who you are, but I want to encourage you from a practical standpoint, don't speak. When somebody gives you constructive criticism, be silent, swallow it, and then let the Holy Spirit minister to it. Let Him stir it. Don't defend yourself. Go to the Lord. If it's wrong, the Exodus says you have only to be still. He will fight for us. If it's wrong, He'll tell you that. He'll bring confirmation that, hey, that person's off. But find somebody you trust. Find somebody that has got fruit in that area. It does you no good to have people in your life with no fruit in the area that you want to grow in and go, that's the person I want to take advice from. Absolutely not. Find somebody who has fruit in the area you want to grow and get help from them. The second tool that I want to share with you in terms of being a good parent is that be their parent, not their friend. This is a crisis in America. I don't know about other countries because we only live in America, but your children are not your friends, and they sure as heck should not be your best friend. And I'm going to get on a soapbox, and I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but when we walk around saying that our children are our best friends, we are putting a weight on their heart they cannot handle. Proverbs 19:18 says, discipline your children, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to their death. I don't think he's talking about physical death. He's talking about spiritual death. He's talking about earthly death. Because when we allow our children to be our friend, we give them access to parts of our heart that they are not capable of handling. They are not capable of carrying. And the other thing that we do is we teach them that their opinion is the only thing that matters. If I'm with my best friend, I'm going to do what she wants every time. We're both going to back and forth. Oh, that's what you want. That's what you want. The problem is when you're the mom and you give that kind of access to your kid, foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. They are never going to abdicate. What do you want, Mom? That's not what they're going to do. They're not our friends. They are our children. They are our students. We are their teacher. It is not their job to fill your heart with acceptance you never got, validation you never received, or friendship that you never had. Your child cannot be that. And I want to be clear. I am not saying that your children will not become your friends. But even with 5 adult children, there is a level in which I am still the parent. Yes, I can share more things with them, but I'm not going to give them the details. If Daniel and I get in a fight, I'm not going to call up Nicole and go, so this is what your dad said, and this is what he did, and did it. Like, that's not for her. Her heart loves both of us. So I have to be willing to let him stay in that place of her heart. If I need her validation in the eyes, or if I need validation from her in my relationship with him, I've crossed a heart boundary that's not okay to cross. It is not okay to let your children be your friends. So how do you parent them that has gotten mixed up. I think it's because we have confused a trusting relationship. And we must create trust with our children. The way that we do that is by say what you mean and mean what you say. I would say that this was Daniel's absolute mantra when our children were little. Say what you mean and mean what you say. You have to follow through on the threats and the promises. It is very easy to throw out threats to your children, and I would like to tell you to stop. Think about what you're saying before you say it. The same goes with the good things. A lot of times I see parents like tell their kids weeks and months in advance about a good thing that's happening. And we love the anticipation that our kids feel, right? We're like, oh, we're going to go to Disneyland. I'm going to tell them. Well, one, they don't have the attention span and they don't have the patience to like, it's what's a month, what's a week, what's any of that. But the other thing is, as a parent, you know something they don't. Life happens. And so if you sit around and you go, I'm going to tell them about this thing we're doing in a month, but you don't know what's going to happen in a month. So my encouragement is hold back some of the things so that they trust you, so that when you say, hey, we're going to Disneyland, you actually go and you didn't have to take it back. I can't tell you how many times we didn't tell them something good and we're grateful that we didn't, and how excited they were when we said, hey, tomorrow we're going to Disneyland. I can tell you the one time that we didn't follow through when my daughter broke her arm. And I knew they'd all have it. We had planned a trip to SeaWorld, and we did give them kind of built up anticipation because it was going to be a big, like cousins, everybody was going. And the night before, Nicole fell off the bed and broke her arm. So, of course, we couldn't go to SeaWorld the next day. They still talk about it. And you know what? It makes me happy because that one time had such a big event. It's the only time. They don't not talk about it because it always happened. We were trustworthy. You have to make yourself trustworthy as a parent, because the trust creates solid boundaries. When you give them solid boundaries and you give them security, it actually builds their wings to fly. When we just try to be their friend and give them access to all this information that they shouldn't have, they're carrying weights that they can't handle, their wings are literally clipped. They don't have the strength to keep going. Friends get an all-access pass to our hearts. Our children never should. And I want you to think about it in this way. And I felt that this was kind of something that the Lord wanted me to share very specifically. We do not give our children access to our bedroom when we're making love with our spouse. Why do we give them access to an intimate fight? Because fighting with your spouse creates muscles that help you grow. They create muscles that create intimacy and understanding. But if you give them access to your fights, you don't give them access to the making up. Your children should not see you having raging fights with each other. I am not I do not want to give the impression that our kids never saw us fight. I don't want to give the impression that we were this perfect, wonderful family who didn't ever do anything wrong. We absolutely did. But your children should not be the source of validation for you. They shouldn't be the source of comfort for you. It is not okay. And if your children are watching you fight, you are literally tearing down the trust they can have in you. Because how you relate with your wife, how you relate with your husband, they're watching. And you have a command from the Lord to be a good example. And too often, we let them see one half of the situation and not the other. How many times do we get in a fight, but the makeup is in private? If you do something wrong in front of your kids, say sorry in front of your kids. It is very important that they see healthy disagreements. You have to have the self-control to fight privately. When, at the end of the day, our kids will always need a parent. And my mom died about 6 years ago, and I remember the biggest thing that I kept thinking is, I don't have a couch to go to anymore. Even though my mother and I weren't even that close, in the back of my mind, I always knew, if my life falls apart, Mom's couch is there. I can go to my mom. But if she would have been my friend, it wouldn't have been the same thing. Our children still need a parent, and that comes through building trust. The third thing And probably the most important is that you cannot outparent your child's need for Jesus. Romans 3:23 tells us that every person falls short of the glory of God, and they will too. It is important for you to be their soft place to fall, but do not prevent them from falling. That will disable them. If you're not careful, you will outparent their need to run to Jesus. The way that we can hover or keep them from getting in trouble or keep them from getting hurt, all that does is build selfishness in them. Because what they believe is my behavior can stop consequences, or that it's somebody else's job to keep them regulated. You have to model this idea that they need to run to Jesus by understanding that discipline is 80% instruction, 20% correction. And listen, instruction takes on different forms at different ages. When they're little, like, you're just trying to keep them alive, right? So there has to be a lot of boundaries and a lot of consequences. But as they get older, you have to create age-appropriate boundaries. Give them just enough room to hang themselves, and you can pull them back. As they grow, so will their independence, so will their freedom. But the most important part is, how do you help them back up when they fall? Do you shame them? Do you blame them? Do you scream at them? I already shared about being screamed at as a child. It was completely ineffective. Do you I told you so them? I told you so is a deep need for personal validation inside of yourself. If you have to be validated by your child, that is a signal you need to go to the Lord, period. It's not their responsibility. Ephesians 6:4 says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children. Instead, bring them up in the training of the Lord." Ephesians 6:3 says, "Honor your mother and father." And I think in the Christian community, we have been beaten down by parents saying, honor your mother and father, honor your mother and father, but no mother and father taking accountability for not provoking their children to anger. And when we shame them, when we scream at them, when we blame them, and we discipline or punish them without instruction, we are provoking them to frustration. And that is not okay. God literally says, do not provoke your child. Now, that does not mean walk around, be careful you don't upset them. What it means is, do not confuse them. Do not give them targets that cannot be hit. You have to be mindful of who they are. And when it says bring them up in the training of the Lord, I felt very strongly what I wanted to say is, get out your actual Bible and read it to your children. We are in this culture where devotionals are great. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. They're cute, they're colorful, but they're also soft, they're also fluffy, and they don't tell the whole truth. They tell a palatable truth that adults think kids can take. But you know what? If we trust Jesus, then we understand the child can understand the truth of the Bible. When our kids were little, and it happened many times, we would go to Bible studies and our kids would answer the questions, because back in like the early 2000s, your kids were part of Bible studies you went to. It was a very different time. And we would always get the same comment. How do your kids know the Bible? What devotional do you use? And we would say, well, we don't use a devotional. And I wish I could tell you it was from some strong conviction. It was because we were broke. It was because we had to spend money on a lot of things. And it seemed like buying a $25 devotional seemed silly when we had the Bible in our hands. So we read the Bible. And you know what? You don't have to soften it for them. You have to read it with them. Let them ask questions. Let them see what you're wrestling with. Sometimes, like, if you're reading, like, the story of David and Bathsheba and all of this stuff, your kids are like, he did what? The tendency is to pull back. Why would we pull back the truth that God gave them? He didn't just give it to us. And whatever you're wrestling with, tell them you're wrestling with it. Walk out your healing. Walk out your walk with Jesus with your children, in front of your children. They will not be rocked because you don't know the answer. They will be rocked if you act like you know the answer and then they find out it was a lie. Just read the Bible. Be honest about what makes sense to you and what doesn't. Instead, learn to ask them good questions and allow them to answer without retribution. And what I mean by that is sometimes we'll ask kids questions and you will hear doubt in their answer, or you will hear that they don't understand something. And in our heart's desire to make sure they love God, we're like, no, that's the wrong question. No, it isn't. The Lord put them together. He knit them together. The way they see the world, the way they see the Bible, it's valuable. It's important. Give them space to work it out with you without you getting mad or afraid about it. The fourth one I want to say is hold your children with open hands. They are not yours. They don't belong to you. They are God's. They are guest players on the team of your marriage. And so what I want to say to all the marriages here, your kids are not the most important part of your family. You and your husband are, period. When your kids rise to a status that they do not belong in, you need to hold on to them. And then every time they try to step out, you feel rocked. That is not important. Hold your children with open hands. The best parents teach their children who they are, what they're capable of becoming, and let them go to thrive. Do not live vicariously through your children. If you're doing that, stop. The Bible says to train them up in the way they should go, not the way you wish you went. Too many times we wanted something for our lives, we didn't accomplish it, and then we go, that's it, my kid's gonna do it. And I will foremost throw myself on the sword. I wanted all of our kids to go to college. This was my hard and fast plan. They've got to go to college because I had believed a lie that if Daniel had gone to college or I had gone to college, we would have a different life or it would have been easier. And you know what? It was a big old fat lie. Alan graduated from college. I think Owen did too. Yeah, hey, that's whatever. I didn't care. I just wanted to be a degree. But then what I realized as they got older is there was no eternal value in that. The eternal value was in them following God's plan for their life, not the plan I didn't accomplish in my own. It is not our job to live vicariously through our children. Don't try to set them up for a perfect future that you've envisioned. Alan and I have this joke that I used to tell him he should be a lawyer, and I still think he'd have been a great lawyer. But but the Lord wasn't telling me to turn him into the lawyer. The Lord wanted me to help hone and steward and solidify his leadership skills. Owen needed a different thing. He needed to be free, to run, to be wild, to do his math standing up or on the roof or wherever. Everybody needed something different. Matthew needed to leave school at 16, which was the craziest thing we did as a parent, and I fought tooth and nail. And you know what? It was the best thing for him. Your children are not yours. Hold them with open hands and let God mold them. Encourage them to lean into their strengths, to steward the things that are inside of them, and watch what God will do with them. Because when I tell you that I look back and go, I had no idea what God was going to do with my kids, but I did the best that I could. And my most important thing, and we went out to dinner with Daniel's parents when I think Gabriel was a baby, and we said, what's the best advice you can give us? And I'll never forget my mother-in-law saying, they're God's, not yours. Don't try to hold on to them. And that was the single best piece of parenting advice I ever got. So when my kids became adults and moved out, I did not personally go through, what will I do without my kids? Because I set out from day one knowing the goal is move on. The goal is grow up. A really important piece to this is holding them with open hands, is being humble enough to know what you don't have to give them. Something that Daniel did that was phenomenal with all of the boys was he put them through a quest, which everybody talks about going to the quest retreat, and that's awesome. But before that was even a thing, when our boys turned 13, he gathered a group of men, and he said, these men have something to give you that I don't have, and I am willing to be less in your eyes so that you can be more of who God created you to be. It was the most magnificent thing he can do. And at the time he did it, I didn't fully understand it. He's much more ceremonial than I am. And I was like, okay, I don't know if people are really going to want to do this. But hands down, the men that my sons have become is because my husband was humble enough to say, I don't have everything to give you, and I am willing to let you stand on the shoulders of another man. And that is a hard thing to do because as a parent, you want to be everything for your child. But the kind of the ironic part of it is that he's actually more in their eyes because he was willing to do it. So humble yourself and be who God called you to be, and let your children be who God called them to be. Now, this last tool is really just for the ladies. There's going to be a little stepping on the toes to the men, and there's going to be a little presence. So, don't be too upset about it. But here's what I want to say to all the ladies. Do not sacrifice your womanhood on the altar of motherhood. Too many times we become mothers and we take all of our womanness and we put it in a box and go, oh, now I just take care of babies and cook dinner and resent my husband and I don't do anything I love, but I'm a great mom. That is a lie that will leave you empty on the other end of life. Everything that's inside of you, everything that you love, God put there. And he intends it to inform your motherhood, not be put on a shelf. Can you imagine God in heaven creating you in your mother's womb going, I'm going to put all these things, like I know enough of the passions of the women in here to know that God did not say, you know what? I'm going to put all this stuff inside Taylor. But as soon as Winter's born, Taylor, you go on a shelf until she's 20. That is not what he did. He put all these things inside of us and he wants you to nurture it. If you love to read, before you have kids, get a book and read. If you love to exercise, go for a run. If whatever you love to do that thing. It is so important. You are valuable. There is no them without you, but the real you, not who you think your kids want you to be. Who are you? What do you love? Steward it. Take care of it. And one of the biggest obstacles to this for us women is that we think our husbands are babysitters. And I would like to make the announcement right now. Husbands are not babysitters. They are equal co-parents with you, and you have got to stop going, let me see if he'll babysit. That's ridiculous. He's not a babysitter. He's a husband. He's a father, and he has the same responsibility that you do. If you need to go out, you say, I am going out. Not, honey, can I go out? You're not a child. He's not a child. Stop infantilizing your husband, acting like he can't do it, because yes, he can. And in that, the other piece to that is that you cannot demand that your husband do it your way. Just like God created you as women to be the mother that you're supposed to be, he created them as fathers. And I get it. I was there. I just had a really strong husband who did not let me do it. And we go out and we're like, put them to bed, feed them this food, do it this way, brush their teeth. And then we come home and it's not done and we're mad. And the one time, this literally only happened one time, I came home and he had not done anything the way that I had prescribed, the way the evening should go. He looked at me and he said, I don't need your help to be a father. And I was thoroughly offended. And I was like, you don't? And he said, I don't. I love them and will take care of them and I don't need your help. And he never let me help him again. But you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened. Because what it did is it helped him to be seen as a man in their eyes. I was not silently emasculating him in front of his children going, you don't do it the right way. He was doing it Dad's way, not Mom's way, Dad's way. And Dad's way is okay. We are not supposed to be uniform. We're supposed to be in unity. It is so, so important that we get our mind wrapped around that. Unity, not uniformity. Because here's the thing, male and female is God. So us together is the more perfect expression of God's love to our child. And when we try to tell our husband he has to do it our way, the female way, they're only seeing God as the female nurturing way. And if we only do it Dad's way, then people are only seeing God in this strong masculine way. When the truth is, God's both. And as their parents, we need to be an expression of God in both ways. And I want to say for the stay-at-home moms, this is for the stay-at-home moms, but to the dads. Your wife wanting to get out of the house does not mean she doesn't love you. It does not mean she doesn't want to be with you. It does not mean that she is unhappy with her life. It means that you spend the whole day at work talking to grown-ups, having a wonderful day, and by the time you get home, you have no desire to offer her stimulating conversation because you've spent the whole day having stimulating conversation. And so you're tired and exhausted, and then she wants to go out, and you're like, but I just want to be with you. Give her the space to go. It is so important for a woman to pour into herself. And so you, as the husband and the father, help the children see the beauty that you fell in love with and encourage her to go out, and understanding it is not a reflection of how she feels about you. It is a reflection of how much she loves herself. And to the working woman, I know that you feel guilty for having a job and a baby. I know that is a tension you walk, but you don't need to feel guilty about it, because the thing in you that burns to a passion to work, God put it there. I have a lot of issues with my mom and the way I was brought up. Oh, there's my timer. None of them have anything to do with the fact that my mom had a job. None. It was how she behaved when she was with me that mattered. So I just want to encourage all of you. You are exactly of who God created you to be. You are exactly the parents you were supposed to be. And if you came from a childhood where your parents weren't actually the best, I want to encourage you, God allowed it because he knew that everything that happened to you would give you the tools that you need to be the parent to the child that you have. Don't erase your needs in a desire or effort to be a good parent. Let it color the way that you love them. I hope these tools help you. And remember, you're the perfect parent for the kids you have.